Jack Morton visits his mother's grave with a birthday cake. The two women talk about his potential membership in the secret society in the meanwhile. The blonde is certain that an orphan criminal has no business being housed at a prestigious institution, but her companion is sure that the boy's skills can make up for this. Jack opens the mail and reads the letter denying enrollment, but it quickly changes. The youngster departs from his granddad and transfers to the campus. The grandfather is pleased for his grandson yet a little sad that they must part ways. Despite this, Peter counsels Jack to establish himself in order to be noticed and accepted into the Blue Rose's hidden society. He can only locate the man who kidnapped the boy's mother in that way. Peter is unaware that Jack is being brought somewhere while being carried beneath his arms. Morton declines the invitation to join the school community when Jack and a few other people are set to do so since he already has a spot in another order. After being dismissed, the student checks into the residence hall and discovers that he is sharing a room with the weird Clay Turner. The roommate in the adjacent room is more intrigued by Jack. He sees a blue rose on him and asks how he may get in touch with the order. Alyssa Drake must break up a fight between the males when the dialogue between them doesn't go well. Jack plans a tour for the freshmen and shares what he has learned about the university with them in an effort to impress the lady. The strategy succeeds, and within minutes everyone is chatting about how much they love each other. A kind senior named Randall introduces himself to Jack and tells him that the Order of the Blue Rose isn't the trendiest group to join. Even still, Randall is confident that Jack has no hope of integrating into society since it doesn't need individuals like him. Chancellor Stone, the leader of the Order, sends a detective to Jack's apartment to look into the death of a man Morton had a fight with. The investigator departs empty-handed after assuring Jack that he didn't see his opponent after the event and promised to examine the freshman's alibi. Jack receives a warning from the Chancellor, but when she departs, a blue rose and an envelope are placed on his bed. The contenders are given an assignment to discover the coins that will select the three finals when Jack arrives at the assigned location, where he also finds a number of other competitors and two curators in disguise. In an effort to divide the seats without Jack, the gang aligns itself against him. Jack ventures into the woods in quest of the currency because he is holding up well on his own, but instead he discovers one of his adversaries in critical condition. Morton attempts to assist him, but the man is not amicable to the new man, so Jack goes and keeps looking. When Morton opens the box containing the wild animal, he discovers a coin inside. He bravely reaches in and snatches the relic, making his adversaries even more enraged. Jack discovers a pupil who has been assaulted with a mirror. The student dies as a result of inadequate assistance, which leaves the man with even more unanswered issues. The following homework is challenging, so Jack seeks advice from his buddies and the teacher. Jack decides to pursue his opponent after having an altercation with a classmate. When Morton enters an abandoned building covertly, he discovers a hidden tunnel that leads to a dungeon where the Order of the Blue Rose is holding a conference. To determine whether a candidate is participating, the members examine a recording of him attempting to assist a female outside of the campus. When Jack reveals to his grandpa that all the tales about the Blue Rose are genuine, he is overjoyed. Morton is terrified despite the fact that Peter tells his grandson not to worry and that he has a new letter and a protection amulet from the Order in his pocket. Jack immediately questions Alyssa after assuming that she is a part of the Order as well. Jack has to remove his mother's grave as part of the task for the Order. Kyle witnesses him doing this and asks that Morton leave the area after filming him, unless of course he wants everyone to know about his nighttime hobby. A huge werewolf appears behind Kyle's back as the men argue. Despite attacking Jack, it miraculously avoids harming him. Jack encounters the handlers along the route, who let him know he has been eliminated. Magical dust is flung into the young man's eyes to calm him down, and the servants of the Order pick him up and transport him away. As soon as Morton regains consciousness and finds a nearby dried blue rose, he goes to Alyssa for assistance, pleading with her to give him another opportunity, and informing her about the monster in the adjacent woods. Peter uses his grandson's description to create a picture of the creature. Jack, who believes it to be a werewolf, urges the elderly man to assist him in locating the beast, but Peter would rather let nature make the final judgment. The creature, which Alyssa reported to Chancellor Stone, proves to be a significant issue for the Order. Despite this, the Master forbids the girl from discussing her alternatives, saying that they will recruit more knowledgeable consultants. On the other side, Peter convinces his grandson to bring a weapon that will enable him to protect himself. Jack notices a werewolf on the way to school, but he is able to get away from the man, making Morton feel dumb and cause him to emerge from the woods carrying a stun pistol. When Morton encounters Amir, he warns him not to wander too far from the crowd lest the creature that attacked the other students strike him. Nevertheless, Amir perishes in front of the other pupils despite his friend's warnings. The lads have a plan to capture the werewolf, which Morton tells Randall about. They start off to pursue one of the other pupils, but Randall eventually leaves his friend alone himself and appears to have a plan to trap Jack. Jack encounters Alyssa along the way and informs her of his plans to find the werewolf. The female teams up with her mate, and the two of them keep after Gabrielle. Once more, Morton's status among the contenders is the subject of debate among the mentors of the Order. The blonde, who turns out to be Gregory's mother, warns her companion that she will inform the High Master of everything. The findings of Jack and Alyssa's surveillance allow them to save Gabrielle, but it turns out that the assailant was not a werewolf but rather something that resembled a raised corpse. The two appear to be in danger as well, but all of a sudden, a voice screams the monster away, saving the companions' lives. Randall tries to get further details from his friend in the evening. Speaking aloud, Morton surmises that someone who failed to gain admission to the Order is responsible for this and is attempting to end the competition because all the deceased were eligible to take part. Jack feels certain Gregory is responsible. Alyssa continues her investigation and discovers that a golem, a paper and glue creation that receives its strength from a mystical phrase inscribed on his forehead, was what they witnessed that night. Gregory is suspected by the boy's girlfriend, but Alyssa is certain that Gregory lacks the skill to pull it off. When his roommate returns, he confirms Jack's suspicions by admitting that he is a golem and threatening to get rid of his friend. Jack discovers that half of Clay is covered in dust when he returns to the room. Morton wipes the magic word from his friend's forehead after recalling Alyssa's advice, which allows him to leave. At a gathering of the Order, Jack delivers the golem's head. The Master finds out that Margaret, Gregory's mother, built the monster to make place for her son after reviving the monster's head. Jack is welcomed into the Order for vanquishing the golem. When the headmaster takes off the mask, Morton recognizes the guy in front of him as his father, whom he has been looking for a long time but who is unaware that Jack is his son. When Jack, who is being pursued by a werewolf, enters an abandoned home to hide, he encounters a new danger and something from the box covers the youngster with a thick covering of fur. Jack discovers that he is naked when he awakens. He notices Randall and a few other strangers nearby who identify as the Knights of St. Christopher and admit to being werewolves, exactly like he is right now. Morton doesn't believe his friend, but Jack starts to wonder if this isn't a joke as pieces of a deer start to emerge and Randall claims that it was his meal the night before. Jack is furious and asks to be transformed back into a human, but the organization insists that he first pledge to their cause. The pals plan to kill Morton unless he changes his mind after he flees in spite of their pleas. Morton becomes ill and starts to change on the way to college, but is deterred by a fading shrine that contains images of the dead. After the procedure, the guy's first task at the Order will be to clean up the hall, which Alyssa will supervise. Morton is required to serve guests at a reception hosted by the Order of the Blue Rose. The youngster almost immediately wants to transform into a wolf in front of everyone when he sees his father, Edward, there. Jack is informed by Randall that he will now serve as the Order's double agent, the werewolf within the Blue Rose, after learning that he has actually been admitted to the Order. The brightest pupils in the Order are gathered by Edward, who gives them the task of destroying the obsidian. Kyle is the first to speak up after seeing Alyssa's magic, but the trick causes him to break his arm. Peter begs his brother to acquire proof of the Order's existence so they might discover it and kill Edward when he visits his grandchild with his new plan in hand. Jack declines Alyssa's invitation to teach him magic for the first time because he thinks the sound of witchcraft would convert him back into a werewolf. Morton has to practice controlling his appeals in his room throughout the evening. Finally, he succeeds, allowing Jack and his companions to do witchcraft, such as tricking others into believing things are happening when they aren't. Randall's buddies believe it is time to get rid of Jack after finding out that he has joined the Order. The headman must accept a challenge in a beer competition in order to protect his friend's life. Peter is furious with his grandson for not trying to kill the Order, and Edward by exacting revenge for the death of his mother, but Jack explains that a protection spell prevents him from getting any images. Alyssa learns that a friend has been practicing illegal magic. She stands in for him and informs him that this is the final time she will. After saying goodbye to her friend, the girl goes back to the obsidian and breaks the curse, taming the age-old rock. When Jack suspects that his pals are about to hurt one of the instructors, he rushes to warn her, but Morton turns around due to the sound of witchcraft. He finds his favorite professor's body in the woods and wakes up there, sure that it was he who had eaten his neck. Randall hears what occurred from Jack. The boys visit Miss Benson's house, where everything all started, to check whether the werewolf has done the same to her. However, the house is empty, so Morton hires a friend to examine it. Alyssa requests the Chancellor to release her from mentoring Jack due to her intense study schedule with Edward. Stone is envious of the student and tells her there are many of people in the master's class who are just like her. Brandon informs his friend that the official explanation is a vehicle accident after Miss Benson ends up in the hospital. When Morton has calmed down, he goes to the cafe to talk with Randall about what to do after devouring his own professor. The headman follows his friend back to his house, where he locks Jack in the basement with the help of his fellow werewolf pals while they decide what to do about his witchcraft. When Alyssa attends Edward's lessons, he reveals to her the knight's corpse, which contains a portion of the same old book that was buried within the obsidian. The werewolves decide to give Jack a chance and form a brief alliance with the wizard when Jack persuades them that he too wants to kill Edward. In the meantime, Edward persuades Alyssa to visit the deceased knight's mine on his behalf in order to find the book's second section. The young lady submits meekly to her tutor without considering the hazards she is incurring. Morton learns how to unleash and control his wolf from the werewolves, but he still has grudges towards his buddies for changing him without his consent. Alyssa's efforts to locate the scroll are continually unsuccessful since she gets expelled from the other realm. She can't seem to locate the scroll. Finally, Edward makes the decision to feel sorry for her and ends the ritual, saying that he will resume it tomorrow. On the other hand, Jack's training pays off. He is able to regulate his heartbeat and recall that the professor was under a magical enchantment, and that he had to murder him to save Miss Benson. Jack senses witchcraft and surmises that his companions are the ones doing it. In exchange for their lives, he offers to discover another method to halt the magic and begs the werewolves not to kill Gabrielle and Brandon. Alyssa finds the book while once more exploring her mind, but she is unable to take it. At this time, the deceased knight regains consciousness and cuts the cord holding Edward to his apprentice, which allowed him to take her home. Glad that Alyssa remembered to bring a book for him, the master manages to escape and grasp the rope just in time. After Miss Benson receives her hospital discharge, magical mercenaries surround her home. To save the instructor and learn who and why are attempting to get rid of her, the pack of werewolves must go on the hunt. When Morton finds himself in the middle of the street without any clothing on, the entire street sees him. He even needs to transform into a wolf to stop one of the charmed ones. The corporation celebrates the success, and Morton acknowledges that despite all of his successes, he still struggles to forgive himself for the professor's passing. The student tells Chancellor Stone everything to assuage his anxiety, but she simply requests that he refrain from doing it again. He is forced to attend a lecture on harassment as punishment when Miss Benson complains about his peculiar conduct. The youngster goes back to the forest to bury the professor and express his regret to his corpse. Morton accepts to join the werewolf order to fight against bad witchcraft after Randall and the other werewolves help his friend.